Eons ago, when legend sweats and history took place in the present, there was a knight who fought an endless war. He was a strange man, distant and silent, who kept his distance from Vrionu without a word or gesture. He wore a thick armor of dark steel, carried a tower shield capable of stopping a batter Ingram, and his sword was large and long as a great sword. Nunek knew his name nor his origin, only that in the 500 battles had fought he had never been defeated regardless of the number of enemies or the strength of the same, hested upright, unbeatable and imposing, wounds that for any mortal would be lethal, for him were similar to thescrichus off a bramble. He remained immutable, because what Nunen was hadio could not kill Simeonu ho hadel rededed many times. His rock-hard body creaked like called leather why the very movement. His parched veins slooked like hairs the trent he length of a body whose skin was so pale the tight ways almost transparent. No blood flowed through them, for a sharthid shriveled and dreed to a stony of crumpled charcoal. That body, which was neither dead nor alive, couldn't move a bishir for sea of will. It was the warrior's own subconscious that Pasheda's muscles to continue, as he longed to find something thought would give a reason for high sextants. He walked without rest, face in everything thatry to stop him, ignoring wounds and the pain he caused to his battered body. His will was so great that he could bend mountains in his path, and even make kings bow before his presence. As he walked crestfallen without a fixed direction, he entered the depths of a dark forest. Inside he found no life, no death, but as soon as his feet stepped into the heart of Tegrov claimed his attention. His glazed eyes fixed for the fierce time on something that was not at ground level. In front of him, on a bed of white roses, stood the pale figure of a hooded woman. Shadows danced around her, blurring her appearance and showing confusing illusions that the warrior could not understand. He had witnessed many strange things throughout his existence, sorcery, monsters and women were nothing unknown to him. But this occasion was different. There was something in that person that prevented him from lowering his eyes to the ground. "Hold it right there, knight in rusty armor and dead eyes," the lady ordered him. A request he obeyed without complaint. "Who are you? Thought you have entered me forest uninvited and Elia Dedmagard." The knight opened his mouth in an attempt to respond, but in his first words he only managed to spit out puffs of dust. After coughing a bit, he managed to articulate a few stray words. "Dagmar." "Valo," he answered, making a tremendo effort to remember his own name. "I'm lost. Who are you?" The shadow surrounds woman altered, surrounding her at a faster rate, forming a dome-shaped shield. The woman walked to the Geoft rose bed, the point at which the dome of darkness began to take in solidity. "Annalise Jaren. You had better return, for no nuho have tried to enter have lasted long. Withdraw, for this flower bed doesn't know to wait the arrest. If you approach, only suffering and pain awaits ya." Themon's eyes blinked for the first time in centuries, clearing the layer thought covered its rough surface. Through the 12 shadows he managed to perceive a unique flash. Itonla lasted a few seconds, but it was not to awaken his interest. The knight approached the wall of shadows, which accelerated with each step, overshadowing the lady inside. "Stop! Are you crazy? Don't I overlay your life, your own sanity?" The soldier dropped his word to inside, his heel to theater and stretched out his arms until they penetrated the surface of darkness. The shadow subpoenaed around disarmored fingers, as if they were knives that cut the very air in their path. The steel plates cracked and creaked with every step he took, pushing him deeper into the dark barrier as he felt it try to push him back with all its might. Just before his thorax reached the breaking point, the entirety of his body accessed the bead zone. "It wasn't that big of a deal," he replied, bending his gaze down to get a better look at the lady's face. This only appeared reticent and distant, something he called no reproach or furfur. "You have disregarded me warnings. Don't complain if I come out of this place looking bad." He placed his arms in jars, turning back toward center of bead, tossing his darker back and forth busily. "What prompted you to enter so earnestly? Only a madman would have done it. I'm not crazy. he replied, regaining a little fluency in speech. I just saw Zometha glowing behind old hat darkness, and I had the urge to see what it was. Shining? How is that possible? I wear no jewels or mirrors, I have no gold or silver, what will there be in this place capable of shining bright in auto pyre such darkness? The gentleman did not answer right away. He just stared at her carefully. She was an attractive woman, with eyes as dark as coffee and a face as pale as the moon. Her bony colored hair fell over her chest from her hood like a twosmal waterfalls. It was true that there was nothing in that place that could provoke such a glow, until an idea crossed his mind. It must have been Hismol, he replied confidently. Such a direct and strange answer left the woman bewildered, who stared at the gentleman unable to believe what he was saying. Such was her astonishment and the innocency of his words, that the woman could not help but let out a loud laugh. After that outburst of grace, she kept looking at the warrior with a melancholic smile on her lips. That gesture on lie strengthened the soldier's own assumption. That smile irradiated be, althos it was also drowned in sadness. You may stay then, though I warn ye that, in this place, though small, dwelleth the great testaments a human being has ever faced. Let them come. He replied nonchalantly, something that me death lady regular. There is no weapon that can hurt me, no demon that can sink me. I always prevail, I always survive. The gentleman's response made the woman, for the first time in decades, feel a small relief in her agitated heart. The days passed, and the strange couple remained inside the dome talking and getting to know each other little by little. The presence of Tatman seemed to lessen the strength of the shadows, so much so that at one point I reached the point of allowing the night to pass without even scratching his armor. He moved among the shadows as if they had always been part of him, and kept them at bay when the directo come too close to the lady. On any occasion, Dagmar asked the lady how she had ended up in that situation, unable to leave a thought circle or feel the company of Agnon. I am dangerous to the world, he replied quietly. I decided to lock myself behind thighs wall of shadows, to avoid hurting Ganils. The gentleman did not quite understand that answer. What harm could ye do to the world, such a beautiful woman as you? The lady smiled, but no answer. Time continued to pass, although in the death dome of shadows he did not know if it had been des or months. At that point he spoke of his experience as the woman. How he had fought in every bloody battle and all the kings he had killed. They sounded like fairy tales, told from the mouth of a child, so the woman concentrated on his stories without quite believing them. The fact that he himself considered himself a living dead escaped illogic. I don't see you two as dead as you say, he commented on any occasion as they rested side by side lying on the ground. You are much more alive than others I have come talk know. Your chapped lips my less sweet livery time you hear me speak, your dullish every time you see me approach. You think I notice nothing, but I see everything, you are glad to be near me. He turned his back to the soldier. Something I can't understand, can you explain to me why? The dead man's armor creaked as he leaned in his side, directing his gaze at the lady's back. Would there be any reason I want to be with you? Her voice had become clearer and firmer with time. Her eyes, until recently purely white, were beginning to show two dark pools like dark chocolate. Her skin, pale and translucent as membrane, had taken on color and thickness. And her heart, though dry and withered, had begun to beat very slowly. I feel that in your company, this weary warrior has a life again. How could I get away from Theo who intoxicates me with this feeling? The lady smiled and blushed at his words. In a moment, before he could react, the lady turned and planted a kiss in his lips. Dry, chapped lips, which responded awkwardly. The woman pulled away between angry and confused. Didn't I want this? Why are you so hesitant about this kiss? The imposing man shrank back, as if suddenly struck in the chest, taking away all breath. His thad pounded, forcing the blood to flow through his veins again. Although he felt a sharp pain throughout his being, the sensation of life flowing through his body made him feel refreshed and content. "Sorry, ma'am," she replied, keeping her gaze fixed on the floor. "I've never been kissed before. I don't know how I'm supposed to act or what to see back." The lady smiled, and a loud laugh burst from her thin lips. She had been so amused with the answer, that she lay on her side long for a long time. When she had ate enough, she turned her to the gentleman and kissed him again. This time with less passion, with more gentleness. "Well, if that's the case, let me show you." Some time after that wo had declared Hirleve Foriachother, the knight awoke in the morning with his beloved sleeping beside him and wondered, whatever would we have to face, if from the dome of shadows we were to emerge? He walked to the barrier, which was so calm and devious that it almost seemed as if it would collapse at a moment's notice. He frowned, showing a worried expression on his snow-wheeled face. Her dark eyes were aglow in gaugain, her once wrinkled and dry skin was not out and smooth like that hat of a 20-something swain. And his heart was pounding, increasing in rhythm and frequency each time her hands brushed against them. He had come back to life, he had no doubt about that, though he still carried part of his curse with him. She, for her part, had also changed quite a bit. She no longer wore the tunic in which he had known her, revealing a simple dress that floated around her as if she were in the depths of an ocean. Her words, once sharp and dry, now floated in the air accompanied by a honeyed intonation. "What are you doing, my precious knight?" he heard Anneliese ask behind him. When he turned around he saw her standing there, still, in the center of the flower bed without looking away from the rejuvenated knight. "I was wondering if today could go for a walk away from this place." The woman's face contracted into a disapproving grimace. "Never, this is the only place where we are safe." "I don't understand, dear, safe from what?" She bit her lip, as if she was unable to give a clear answer to that question. She lo kaduniasi, probably because of the idea of leaving that comfortable place where they were. "O faltha Tysevil." The knight smiled and cast a nonchalant glance toward his shield and sword, which rested next to his breastplate at a point near the barrier. He walked over to his belongings and began to dress. "Have you forgotten what I've been telling you all this time ago?" He pulled in his mail, which squeaked as it stretched after months of disease. "In the outside world there is nothing I can't stand up to, no enemy that can bring me down. I am invincible, I am a fortress that carries and eats hooters the burden of immortality. Nothing can hurt me, nor can any owner reach you without first passing through me. Theplatus klinkedter, as the wary orputhemen with the grace of 1001 Puton. There is no evil in this world, that can reach you. For I swear before Miss Word, that the soon will go out before I let anything apentoya." He sheathed his word and hung the shield in his back. He did not remember all Tate weighed so much, but he did not let that detail show any confusion on his face or fear in his words. "Take me hand, accompany me to Seath world beyond Thule, and I promise to be your faithful shield." The woman hesitated, without taking Harry's off the soldier's mesh glove. His vision was imposing, terrifying for Hosuho did not know him, but Shizurius lied out at the tight ways na. True, she had known of everyone obvious thousand and one stories, but she was not confident he not had he would be able to withstand would await him on the other side, them and stirs off her world did little or nothing to do against the demons she herself held within. Butevan with that fear blossoming inside her, the confidence that surrounded the knight and the love she felt for him made her take heishand and let the wall around them fall. The soldier did not look away from her for a second, evento be surprised at such a sudden release. He already knew that Thirmer tats around them was nothing more than a creation of his lady, puttery to keep a very one away from her. "I will trust your word. But the Racenathinja must promise me, never leave me behind." With a nod, the soldier invited her to walk beside him as the roses the Thad stood resolutely withered. Little was left off he white a bed the Thad served as their bed for so long, which dried up and turned to dust. The light from the sky bathed the couple, before which woman protected herself with her raincoat because her skin, after years of pure darkness, could not stand it very well. They walked 4 hours, reached in Geverino and then to enjoys more beauteous that the forest offered. The darkness that had previously prevailed monged its foliage had disappeared, surely because oft he fall off to all that woman had directed so well. They stopped at a stream and drank from its waters, from a taplet tree they took its fruits, and under a roof of a tree they strolled. Their steps went deeper and deeper into the depths of the forest, never once looking back. When it came, they took refuge inside a cave and before the warmth of a fire. They dined, drank and loved each other, until at the first dawn a terrible terror seized that night. There, where his lady had lain, was a huge and terrible looking being. He jumped away from it, just as two its 7 arms reached out to grab him by the neck. "Who are you, monster, and what have you done with Anneliese? Speak now or die," he shouted as he unsheathed his sword and raised his shield. The abomination shifted awkwardly, letting out a crawling chuckle as with visions he stroked the the stomach he dragged with him. "Mine eyes Belzinos," he growled in a voice that seemed to come from every corner of the cave. "And I am Thedamon of compassion. It's been a while since I've set foot in the mortal world, thank you for releasing me from a Kajia filthy human." He laughed again, at the moment when Onavation slunged in pursuit of crushing the soldier. The soldier responded and with a slash-roth air he cued it off. His word shone you with the purple blood of hat being from El, while a shriek of pain spread throughout the forest. "Inept! Do you not appreciate the lady in black? Do you intend to end her life?" The warrior regulated at her words, without letting his guard down or losing sight of the movement of her remaining hands. "Tell me, what have you done with her?" "Nothing," he replied, accompanying these words with a throaty laugh. The stump of his arm sealed and within seconds, a new hand was beginning to grow from within. "I'd assure, before you. We have always been known, and always will be. The only way to defeat me would be to put the woman to death, and you don't want that, do you?" An arm he hadn't seen coming struck him from the side of his shield, though his reaction was swift enough to interpose it in its path. The impact sent a shudder down to his jaw. "Return her to her state, you despicable being, or I'll give ye an account of you right here." He lunged forward and in one emotion sliced off a pair of fans, driving Thedeville back like a cornered animal. "You are strong, oft there is no doubt, few before have managed to hurt me." He walked slowly, shielding his stomach as he patted the air in an effort to keep his distance from the warrior. "Far fewer have managed to push me back. Tell me, human, is this woman so important to you, that you are willing to risk your life efforts of saving her?" "Life?" he asked, casting a murderous glare at the beast. "I have long since lost it. I can't offer something I don't pay for it. What I can offer is me own body as a sacrifice. If be doing so I manage to save her existence, it will have been worth it." "You re pathetic!" shouted the beast, slamming 2 hands on the ground before him, shaking the cave in its entirety. "Do you think you can hold out long against me? My energy is infinite, my power immeasurable. You will end up exhausted and broken long before you make me shed the first drop of sweat. Give up and go away." The knight continued to fight the demon, cutting each new hand that crossed his path, without ceasing to push back his enemy, but without reaching an insignificant achievement against them. It was endless combat, in which 2 eternal beings fought to see who could endure the situation longer. Everything would have continued like that forever, if the knight in an act of faith had not lowered his sword, dropped his shield and received the direct blow of a fist in his chest. The blade screeched, the chain mail split and blood spurted from his lips. But in the face of that sweeping blow that would have split a man in 2, the knight stood firm and impassive. He pushed his arm aside thanks to his prodigious strength, and began to walk in the direction of the enormous mole of darkness that was the demon. "What are you doing? Have you lost what little sanity you had left? Stop right there." 2 more blows hit him squarely, one in the side and one in the face. But instead of remaining dejected on the ground, his feet continued to walk. And thanks to his strong will he made room between his arms. You're not a human being, you're some thingels, what demon are you? Three other hands grabbed at him, legs, torso and face encircled and squeezed. I'll crush you fucking monster. He hard theaterville scream, but instead of giving up, his legs kept walking. No matter how hard he pushed, that human continued on his way, ignoring the pain and the damage a thought those blows caused him. This is nothing, compassionate demon, I have suffered far more pain than you could ever cause me in 1,001 lifetimes. The seven hands at once about him it, Butra Thurthan stop his advanceth I encouraged him. And as I promised her, as long as I stand, there will be no beast or demon that dares to risk her life. He camathento stand in front of her Hugestimac, and with a strong gesture freed himself from the devilshus. And so it's all be, even if I have it to protect her from her own demons. For I am her guardian and she is a me lady. He thrust his arms inside the dark mass and with a swift gesture from within the woman was pulled out. The demon, deprived of its source of power disintegrate into a cloud of dark dust, not even having time to respond to the night swords. The lady then found herself awakening from her sleep, in terms of her beloved night without quite understanding what had happened. What happened? Why are you hurt and everything in disarray? A demon tried to snatch you from my side, but he was notable to defeat me and from him I have rescued you. The woman saucer-like eyes lingered, as a sob threatened to burst from her lips. I'm sorry. She murmured through her tears. I warned you, you shouldn't be next to me. If behaving a life with you, I am Tophus Suctamans, I would rather this life lived than no life lived at all and away from you. He responded by taking her hand. He had lost them shed gauntlet at some point in the scuffle, so Theophilophus' skin against theirs was reassuring to them both. I promised you I would be your shield, and I will be with you, even if I Havito use me against yourself. They left that shattered cave, and headed north. There was no specific destination, they just walked side by side, rediscovering the world from a perspective that had been denied to them for centuries. Nature seemed to be more alive, more colorful, as if a master painter had journeyed over it leaf by leaf and petal by petal. The gray and dark tones that had veiled their vision were disappearing, like a distant memory. It's like the world is getting more beautiful by the minute. The woman murmured, more to herself and to her companion. But warrior seers were fine and shed. Perhaps it is the effect of your presence, which makes of everything bathed in your own beauty. The woman was silent, those words shed sounded so natural that she hesitated for a few moments to give an answer. At that time, the gentleman knelt down and took the first rose that reached his hands. It was not white lekethos he had seen some time before, but as red as a ripe apple. He offered it to her silently and she took it. Take it as a present from me. The woman smelled flower and her gaze shifted over the stuffed roses that populated the field. There were bigger roses, more beautiful and healthier looking roses. Roses so perfect, they would have been too long for wish of an young girl in love. But none of them was her rose was the another night given her, that he had given her. That was her rose, it was sure present, something received without having gasked for it beforehand. A loose detail, an offering prompted by the simple need to make her even more beautiful. Not because the rose was to adorn her as a headdress, nor her chest as a brooch, but because of hue desmileth their lips howd. Thought woman radiated again before a thick night, more beautiful, more pure than he had seen her in the time they had been together. Thek night smiled in return, and from then on her smile never left them. Regardless of hardship, time or distance, that smile remained on his face and grew at the mere presence of his beloved. I will carry it with me forever. He replied, caressing her petals, as he covered her with a thin film of shadows. I will protect her from the passage of time, I will make her beautiful forever. They continued their march, now more enthusiastic than before. Theknight kept the lady's mind off her worries, amusing Hera protecting her from any unpleasant images. Although the surrounding had become increasing lighted with bright light-colored flowers and cloudless skies, death was queen of Therium and popula tethily flitter with the corpses of animals and humans killed in grotesque circumstances. It was a wild world, full of creatures thought would make them in stir-soft hemist perverse tales pale. Grotesque figures fed and moved at the edge of his vision, ever present but never visible. No matter how many times he turned around, death seemed to always remain atop his vision, keeping him on constant alert. This made him stick closer to it and cover as much as he could with the opening of his cloak, as casually as possible, without arousing his suspicion or interest. "I'm sorry if it may seem like I'm overprotective EFI," commenteth a soldier without taking his eyes off the road. "Do is it Batheria?" "Not at all," Lafinglar replied the woman. "I can see that you care about me, both physically and spiritually." Theknight smiled, and they continued on their way until they found that the night given chase. They found a small abandoned hut and went inside. After an hour of settling in, they sat down with the warmth of a brazier built in the center of the room. Sleep soon caught up with them as they both sat up, and the next morning a new threat arose. Dagmar opened his wide, finding himself to his surprise and under 5 feet off a thick, dark liquid liquor. He pulled himself up with all his might, swimming in those full waters trying to reach the outside. When he emerged he did so slowly, his movement was severely limited and each step cost a human agito take. Instead, a hooded figure in a fetal position hovered just inches from the center of the room. From inside it issued, waterfalls of crystal clear water gushed out, which darkened and thickened as soon as they came into contact with the muddy pool. "Annalise!" he shouted, stepping forward with the Fertov dragging a mountain. "He isn't there, he has gone away leaving you alone. Just as he has done why the Verona throughout his life, he always goes away abandoning you to your fate. He doesn't deserve your attention." Groaned the creature, hugging his legs even tighter. "She's not gone, you know so well that she's in this place. You simply keep her hidden, under a cloak of tears and sorrows, trying to sink her until you drown both her and me." The soldier replied crisply, as his steps grew heavier and more complex. "Don't try to get close, I want to be alone. I don't deserve your company, go away and find someone who won't put you in danger. I don't want to be away from her, even if her mere closeness could lead to my own destruction. I would rather die 1,000 deaths at her hands than just once away from her," he replied, as the water continued to recede his chest and his steps became slower and more costly. "What kind of a life is that, one full of suffering and sadness? That salt hate awaits you if you stay by her side, go away before mit airs drown you to woe." "Drown me?" The knight, who had been in a state of alarm and despair, felt this nervescum and his musclenclench. "Drown me, do you think this water could even manage to accomplish such a feat?" His feet took a determined step forward, the water was up to his neck and would soon cover him completely. "It's been centuries since I stopped breathing, centuries since I drowned in my sorrows, and I haven't had a breath of air since." He took another step again, barely 2 meters separated them. "Until I met Annalise, I never felt air enter my lungs again. If I want to, you can try to drown me as much as you like, for no matter how hard you try, I have already spent a lifetime under the water softness." The water covered his face, putting again into his words, but not a his forts. He reached out his arms, as he felt a superhuman strength pulling him down, and grabbed the grieved man's wrists. He pulled him to himself, took him by the nape of the neck and kissed him on the lips. That kiss, charged with air from her own lungs, made death a suffocation that lady felt at that moment suddenly disappear. The water evaporated along with the devil shadow, and from within it lady emerged coughing and visibly confused. "Again?" he asked in a silent and with sadness. "As if 1,000 times, I promised you that I would stand by your side and protect you from everything." He lifted her face with his index finger and thumb, offering her a kiss which as he did na the site to take. Theod couple felt closer every day, more attacked tokother, such was that strong feeling thought words were a notive and necessary to understand each other. They spent their days walking, seeing the world and learning more and more about its complexity. The passed be battlefields abandoned Centuria Sago, whereon lie their main soft somaristy weapons and rickety shields were left. Theek night narrateth the history of fetch great battle fought, regardless of whether or not they were any arth site of the conflict. He recreated thereus of it, and repeated over and over again to his companion that he would never set foot in one again. That those unhappy times were already behind him, because he had found a reason to live. Something that truly made him happy and that he would na the site to protect from the harshness of the world around them. I am not made of glass, dear gentleman, replied the lady in a melodramatic tone. I can fend for myself in the face of any adversity thought comes our way, she wasn't for a few seconds, before continuing. As long as you are with me. You may be a tough woman on the outside, replied the gentleman with a broad smile. But you are as fragile as glass on the inside. You cannot bear to stand in the presence of death, much less, in the presence of the spectres that accompany it. Those words seemed to have a disturbed woman, but she did not respond, for it was clear to her that it was true. Maybe, he replied curtly, something themin was to happening from time to time. Still, well have her weaknesses, don't you? You know me well, my lady. He took her hand and kissed the back of it. Well have her weaknesses, mine I hold in front of me. Though Amanda laughed out loud, withdrawing her hand with him as long as she continued to walk. I didn't think that at night could become so smarmy. He walked with a determined step towards what was left of an old military camp. That city of you I have discovered over time, you are a romantic encased in the body of a monster. He smiled at that cruel insult, for he knew his words were not intended to be harmful. They crossed the crumbling walls of rotting wood, treading way to peer to hub in a makeshift path. The tents lay in ruins, their pillars splintered, and their limbs covered with a dense layer of verdigris. There was no trace of bones, for the wild animal had already made a collection of them in recent years. The Kamito had looked like a huge boulder, a rock thrown by a mighty siege machine long ago. They took a seat and rested. Then it caught up with them, a moment for which the warrior had been preparing. He erected a makeshift tent with theramanes he found around the camp and lit a fire to warm up. But when he could see that his beloved had fallen asleep, a voice called for his attention. Well. His eyes scanned at the darkness, unable to perceive a the exact direction of the conversationalist. What has come to fill internets? He began to see blurry figures in the darkness, like souls lost in time approaching the firelight, as if drawn by a spectral beacon. Buden like the floating specters, these were walking on their two legs. He heard the screeching of Cain mail, the grinding golf plates, and the surface of swords. When they came close enough of light he could see them at last, they were bandits. Armed with stolen steel and protected by armor of different origins, thugs would lice up to fill their pockets and quench their thirst for blood. Turn around. Thek Knight growled, rising from the ground and towering over the newcomers with his massive eyes and the thickness of his armor. And you may live. He put the shan to his belt, where his sword rested. The shield, unfortunately, had become a lodged against a nearby tree surrounded by thugs. One of them tried to pick it up, without much success. Boot what kind of a monster would carry a shield like this? He complained, turning away from it without understanding theories and for its enormous weight, it weighs more than a donkey. It weighs more than a donkey. Have you seen the thickness of this steel? It's just a show off my strength. He snarled, drawing eastward with his right hand, which was larger than a claymore, and swung it between his fingers with these with what can Agil place with a knife. Do you really think it's a good idea to face me? Theman closed the circle further. Of course, you are alone and we are many. It's down fair a handicap for Iaguis. He muttered, throwing himself in toth fray. Thes words den said for a few minutes, for the Rabletha Thadared to approach his camp soon realized the fatally of their mistake. Thek night sword split steel, skin and bone you with these with which on cuts butter with a hot knife. It did not matter if Thai tried to cover or dodge, for his movements were swift and his strength overwhelming. The leader of the group was regulating himself in the face of that brutal onslaught, until his Gesuas fiked on the woman resting in the tent. An idea occurred to him, something he could do to make the soldier lower his guard and lay down his arms. He skirted around Frey, taken advantage of the soldier's distraction, and slipped under Thetan Starp. Once he found himself just a few meters from the woman, and with asleep in her still present, he reached out to grab her by the neck. But just at that moment, he felt a devastating impact in his right side, and how the steel hissed as he scraped his ribs for seconds that felt eternal. He coughed and spat blood, which stained the woman's face. She opened Harry's in surprise, on Lito Seathman's face twist in pain. And Falto Thesided. Dagmar, sensing danger at her back, turned to find that Tanlise was at Themersiaf a bandit, so impulsive was her reaction that she did not even think of the consequence of hate act. Thescrium of terror shuddered was so deafening and overwhelming that Theknight recoiled in shock. A dark mist surrounded the camp and hundreds of shadows gathered, hiding the light of the moon and stars. Thebandites retreated because of their dread of Tepper, only to meet their end at the hands of the darkness that now enveloped them. "My love!" shouted the soldier making his way towards Thetant. The woman was now wanged in a grotesque and dense concentration of darkness, which in Eden Leone and a huge mouth, her steps are becoming more and more difficult, as the scream of agony caused her to slip on the ground like a hurricane. "Calm down. I want to be alone." Her scream sent the hut flying through the air, and the still burning logs of Theban fire scattered on the ground, scattering away until they were consumed by the shadows. Small branches and stones hit him in thiefus like buckshot, opening small bleeding wounds. "Relax, it's all over now. You promised me you will protect me from Malaville. You promised me." Her screams are becoming deafening, such was their force, she felt the blood boil from inside her ears as they were damaged. "That's no way to protect me. I couldn't have done anything else. I gave everything to keep you safe, I was just protecting." They were barely a few feet apart. Bullshit. In a superhuman effort, Theknight knelt on the ground and penetrated the darkness that enveloped the woman. He felt an arm that he did not hesitate to grab, ignoring the fact that Tite resisted his grasp. "Let go of me. Never. I have a promise to you again and again, I will always be with you. I will be your support and your shield, even if I break 1,000 pieces, with only a shard of my steel still adequate to my weapons, I will still give my alto defendo." He pulled at her, pushing with his free hand at the huge dark mouth that struggled to hold the woman inside. This one bit him, crunching the metal under her sharp teeth, but Tite accomplished little against Theknight. The lady emerged from the darkness and threw herself into the soldier's arms. The soldier, relieved to have been able to defeat that terrible demon, plunged his face onto the woman's messy hair and sniffed deeply. "I'm sorry," moaned the woman, trying to wipe a therum soft blood from her face with the sleeve of her shirt. "I didn't mean to tell you the things. I know me beloved, I know. I know you will, I know what you think of me and the trust you have placed on me shoulders. I would never believeth words of a demon like that, for I am aware that at that moment you are not yourself. I could not reproach you for anything, for you are not a blame for anything." After these words, both fell asleep next to each other, like statues bathed by a moon that gradually emerged from the shadows. A big, white, pure moon, eternal in its vigil. That, in its life cycles, never thought it would be the only witness of the misfortune that befell them.